You're with NDTV. I'm Maha Siddiqui. Our top story right now, 7 months after Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, now the annexation. At a glittering ceremony at Moscow's Kremlin, President Putin declared that 4 regions of Ukraine are now Russia's. The move comes 8 years after Russia's annexation of Crimea and has been roundly condemned by the West. As an immediate response to Russia's annexation of 4 of its regions, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has signed an application seeking accelerated NATO membership. Meanwhile, the US has hit back at Russia with fresh sanctions now. This action comes after Ukraine areas have been annexed by Russia. The sanctions target hundreds of people, companies. The US sanctions international suppliers for supporting Russia. The sanctions have been imposed on 14 people in Russia's military-industrial complex. 2 leaders of the country's central bank have been sanctioned. 278 members of Russia's legislature have been sanctioned as well, and sanctions on family members of top Russian officials as well. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden has said that the United States condemns Russia's fraudulent attempt to annex sovereign Ukrainian territory. Russia is violating international law, trampling on the United Nations Charter and showing its contempt for peaceful nations everywhere.
Де-факто, сьогодні Україна подає заявку, щоб зробити це де-юре, за процедурою, яка відповідатиме нашому значенню для захисту всієї нашої спільноти у пришвидшеному порядку. Ми знаємо, що це можливо. Ми бачили, як цьогоріч Фінляндія і Швеція розпочали приєднання до Альянсу без плану дій щодо членства. Це справедливо. Справедливо і для України. Це закріплення на рівні договору того, що і так вже досягнуто в житті, і що є нашими.
Они сделали выбор быть со своим народом, быть с Родиной, жить ее судьбой, побеждать вместе с ним. За нами правда, за нами Россия.
Владимир Владимирович Путин.
7 months after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a formal ceremony to annex 4 regions: Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia, with executive orders passed by Russian President Vladimir Putin announcing these Ukrainian territories as Russian. As Kremlin celebrates, Ukraine rallies support for itself in face of the annexation of its territory.
Это позор и вранье с какими-то псевдореферендумами, с какими-то признаниями и аннексиями закончится для России еще большим позором. Никто не должен участвовать в позорной войне.
Shameless and transparent effort by Russia.
The rest of the West joined Zelensky in condemning the referendum as an illegal land grab and annexation that is unacceptable.
The United States will never recognize Russia's claims on Ukraine's sovereign territory.
The UN called upon Russia to act as a responsible permanent 5 member of the United Nations Security Council.
I want to underscore that the so-called referenda in the occupied regions were conducted during active armed conflict in areas under Russian occupation and outside Ukraine's legal and constitutional framework. They cannot be called a genuine expression of the popular will.
Despite stiff opposition from the West and some of the most stringent sanctions, Putin remains defiant. The UN too has called it a dangerous escalation. 8 years after Crimea, Russia's next move to change the map. Bureau Report, NDTV. Let's move on now. LPG, CNG prices are likely to go up as domestic natural gas prices are up by 40.49% from Saturday. Now, the price of domestic natural gas from the 1st of October to the 31st of March next year is expected to go up by a little over 40%. The order to this effect was issued by PPAC, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Now, the government set the price of gas every 6 months on the 1st of April and 1st of October each year based on global rates. The rise in natural gas price is likely to lead to further increase in piped natural gas, CNG and LPG prices. Let me go across to Himanshu for more details on this. Himanshu, help us understand how this is likely to impact the common man.
Natural gas, of course, is a very important component to generate electricity, make fertilizers, and this is also converted into CNG to run automobiles. And even in the piped natural gas, the gas that comes to our home through the PNG network, in all these items, the natural gas is the primary natural item. And if the price of the natural gas is increased by 40.49%, it is said that in last 1.5 decades, this is the highest, steepest increase in the natural gas. So in all those items like electricity production, fertilizer production, production of the CNG, the input cost of the companies is all set to go up. I did speak to an IGL official, but he refused to comment. There is an indication that they are assessing how this input cost, increase in the input cost is going to affect their pricing mechanism. And accordingly, after assessing how much this 40% increase in natural gas will actually affect their business operations, accordingly the changes will be made. But I think we can assume that all these items that I mentioned, electricity, fertilizer, CNG, PNG, all these, there is a high input pressure now on these companies, and I think a part of it will be passed on to the consumers in coming days.
All right, Himanshu Main, thanks for joining us with those details. Meanwhile, the RBI hiked a key lending rate to a 3-year high today, and loans are now likely to get more expensive. The RBI's move is expected to put more pressure on household budgets already stretched because of high inflation, and other big fear is lower growth.
3 takeaways from the Reserve Bank of India's monetary policy decision. Number 1, the central bank announced its 4th straight rate hike, raising interest rates by 50 basis points to a near 3-year high of 5.9%. Secondly, the Reserve Bank cut its growth forecast for the current year to 7% from 7.2% as the Q1 growth missed expectations. Thirdly, while retaining its inflation forecast at 6.7%, the Reserve Bank had a warning for food prices.
The inflation trajectory remains clouded with uncertainties arising from continuing geopolitical tensions and nervous global financial market sentiments.
Your bank loan and FD interest rates are set to rise after this announcement. Since April till before this hike, RBI has announced rate hikes of 140 basis points. And SBI's home loan interest rate increased exactly in line with that. Getting a 50 lakh SBI home loan for a period of 20 years is now 25% more expensive with higher interest rate compared with April this year. With this rate hike, loan and FD rates are expected to go up by 50 basis points again. This is bad news for 28-year-old Faiz Ahmed, who's on the verge of finalizing a 10 lakh rupee loan from a bank in UP's Hapur to construct a house on a plot of land that he has inherited.
ना सर मेरा तो बजट बिगड़ जाएगा मेरी सैलरी भी इतनी नहीं है कि मैं किस्त भी इतनी ज़्यादा दूं और मैं अपने घर का भी खर्चा चलाऊं.
Today's hike by 0.5 percentage point was in line with expectations as the Reserve Bank of India fights inflation that has been above the 6% comfort level for the whole year and is likely to remain so. Sharply rising interest rates across economies such as the United States, UK and India are steps to control soaring inflation. But they're raising serious risks of a global economic slowdown and even a recession. The Reserve Bank has taken another step to control inflation. But a fear is whether we'll pay for that with lower growth. In New Delhi with Mohammad Adnan in Hapur, Priyanshi Sharma for NDTV.
Meanwhile, the markets ended a 7-day losing streak. It gained 1.8%. The Sensex gained 1,017 points, ended at 57,427. The Nifty gained 276 points, ending at 17,094. Sensex and Nifty post biggest jump in a month. The rupee recovered by 50 paise, ended at 81 rupees 35 paise per dollar. Meanwhile, expected RBI rate hike then boosted the markets, and the markets surged as the RBI said that the Indian economy was resilient. Let's move on now to some political stories. It's not often that an internal party election dominates headlines as much as this one. It's seen a revolt, a retraction, an apology and a last-minute twist. At the end of the day, the election for the post of the Congress president is going to be a straight contest between Shashi Tharoor and Mallikarjun Kharge. Kharge's nomination appears to have the blessings of the High Command, evidenced by the sheer number of senior leaders who turned up for his nomination. Meanwhile, Shashi Tharoor, on the other hand, presents himself as the alternative to the High Command politics that the Congress probably desperately needs.
As Kharge and Shashi Tharoor file their papers, their entry study in contrast. To back the bid of Kharge, the 80-year-old Congress loyalist from Karnataka, a formidable presence of the Congress top brass, including Ambika Soni, Mukul Wasnik, Ashok Gehlot and Anand Sharma.
Kharge's entry was a last-minute twist selected by the Gandhis as their man after Ashok Gehlot dropped out. The message was conveyed to Kharge overnight by Gandhi's trusted leader K.C. Venugopal.
His nomination signed by the Congress who's who, including the dissenting leader Manish Tiwari, as well by former Chief Minister Digvijay Singh, who was all set to run, but backed out after Kharge's name went public.
तो मैं आज सुबह उनके पास मिलने गया और उनसे मैंने कहा कि आप अगर फॉर्म भर रहे हैं तो मैं पूरे तरीके से आपके साथ हूं। आप एक वरिष्ठ नेता हैं, मैं कभी भी आपके खिलाफ चुनाव लड़ने की बात सोच भी नहीं सकता, लेकिन अब उनका इरादा है फॉर्म भरने का, तो मैंने कहा कि ठीक है, मैं आपका प्रस्तावक बनूंगा।
17 तारीख रिजल्ट्स जो आएंगे वो देखा जाएगा। मैं यही अपील करूंगा सारे हमारे डेलीगेट्स जो वोटर्स हैं वो मेरे पक्ष में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा बहुमत बनाकर मुझे जिताएंगे, ये आशा करता हूं।
Kharge denied that he was going to be a status quo president if elected. What Kharge's challenger Shashi Tharoor lacked in political firepower, he tried to make up in color. While the Tharoor's nomination paper had 10 signatures, it included only a handful of well-known names like Karti Chidambaram. The flamboyant Congress MP from Kerala, however, says he is no lightweight, unveiling an elaborate plan to revive the Congress before the media. The key, he says, is to end the high command culture.
I intend to release a manifesto which we will send to every one of the 9100 voters, in which will put forward certain very important principles for reviving the party. And one of them will be to decentralize the functioning of the party.
Vision statements aside, Tharoor faces a formidable challenge. With the Gandhis abandoning their claim to stay neutral, the signal to the 9,000 delegates who vote for the Congress president's post is clear. Officially, the Gandhis say they are not backing any particular candidate in the Congress presidential election. But the giveaway was Mr. Kharge's nomination form, which had the signatures of Ashok Gehlot, A.K. Anthony, who wouldn't have signed without the High Command's concurrence. Clearly, the message is loud and clear that there is going to be an election for the Congress president, the first in 22 years. What remains to be seen is whether the party will emerge stronger or weaker after this election. With camera person Sachin, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Meanwhile, Shashi Tharoor has apologized for a blunder in his manifesto for the Congress chief's post, an erroneous map of India. He issued a corrected version and an apology, but not before the Congress distanced itself from what it described as an egregious or outrageously shocking error. With that, we're taking a very quick break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has launched a 15-point action plan to combat winter air pollution in Delhi as the stubble burning season begins in North India. But will this action plan actually make a difference? Experts have their doubts.
Delhi's air pollution has begun worsening with the dip in temperatures, and stubble burning is likely to pick up in Punjab, with some instances already reported. Today, the Delhi Chief Minister and boss of the ruling party in both these states announced a list of 15 steps to control pollution in India's capital, the world's most polluted in recent years.
तो हमारा प्रयास रहेगा, हम भारत सरकार के साथ मिलके, CAQM के साथ मिलके, NCR के सभी राज्यों के साथ मिलके प्रदूषण को कम करने की कोशिश करेंगे.
Visually, the most prominent cause has been these stubble fires, most of which happen in Punjab but also in Haryana and UP. Farmers burn the paddy crop stubble to clear it quickly and cheaply in time for the next crop. The Aam Aadmi Party says it has a solution.
दिल्ली के अंदर हमने पूसा इंस्टीट्यूट द्वारा तैयार किया गया बायो डिकम्पोजर घोल तैयार किया है उन्होंने. उसको हम मुफ्त में सारी फसलों के ऊपर जो डंठल रह जाते हैं उसके बाद कटाई के बाद उसके ऊपर छिड़कते हैं, उससे वो नरम हो जाते हैं और उसके बाद किसानों को उसको आग नहीं लगानी पड़ती. ये पिछले 2-3 साल से हम लोग कर रहे हैं, इसमें काफ़ी सफलता मिली है. पिछली साल 4000 एकड़ पे किया था, इस बार हम इसे 5000 एकड़ के ऊपर करेंगे.
However, 5,000 acres is a tiny fraction of the over 38 lakh acres of stubble set on fire last year. Vehicles are one of the major sources of air pollution, causing quarter to almost half of it. Yet today's announcements do little to curb this source of pollution. For example, can metro prices be slashed when pollution rises so that passengers actually shift to a cleaner and cheaper mode of transport? Has Delhi's pollution story really become about living from one emergency to another? The government has now made it mandatory to install anti-smog guns at all construction sites larger than 5,000 square meters. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal also said that smog towers have been effective in bringing down air pollution in Delhi.
2021 में हमने एक पायलट प्रोजेक्ट किया था, स्मोग टावर बनाया था, उसका भी अच्छा असर हुआ है.
However, experts say that anti-smog towers have virtually been ineffective. The Chief Minister says that air pollution has declined by over 18% in the last 7 years. However, this is PM10 pollutants, not the smaller and deadlier PM2.5 particulate matter, which settle deep in the lungs and spread to other organs. And in this, the centre's new Commission for Air Quality Management, however, says Delhi's average PM2.5 has been 105 for the last 3 years, which is 21 times the WHO's safe limit.
But it's important to recognize that this isn't a problem that is going to be solved in the short term through small steps that penalize individuals who are taking minor actions in their local neighborhoods, for instance, like burning trash, but larger actions that need to be taken over several years, including addressing sources like industrial pollution, addressing transport-related sources, and addressing significant dust control measures that need to be implemented over time.
However, the government will deploy hundreds of smog guns as well as surveillance teams, and is also planning to impose the graded response action plan from tomorrow. Measures that have largely been in force for the last few years, but brought little comfort to the people in Delhi and its neighborhood. In New Delhi with camera person Manoj Thakur, Vedant for NDTV.